Well, we have some serious questions to ask ourselves today. Is the HK Exemplar made by Hogue knives a bad knockoff of a full-size Benchmade Griptilian, or something that stands alone as unique and possibly an upgrade? Well, what is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Really looking forward to this. Just fact-finding mission, I guess. I mean, that's what this video is really gonna be for me and for you. Now, I purchased this Hogue HK knife, I wanna say almost 4 months ago. So I've had a lot of regular everyday carry use with it. Been using it a lot, getting a really good feel for it, but really looking forward to discovering with you what the deal is with this knife. Because once upon a time, the Axis lock and HK knives were made by Benchmade. But a few years ago, two things happened. First off, there was a breakup and Benchmade dumped HK knives. So HK knives was just floating out there. And at the same time, or near the same time, the patent on the Benchmade Axis lock was expired. It expired, so now it was free for the open market to begin to make modifications or similarities of the Axis lock. So Hogue produced what they call the Able lock. Very similar, but there are some aspects to it that you may find to be even an upgrade over the Axis lock that I'm going to share with you. We're going to read a few comments from knife designer and Knife Rights chairman Doug Ritter. Some of his thoughts on this Able lock is what, again, Hogue calls it. And that's what happened, is that Hogue went out there, they said, hey, HK knives, we'll pick you up, we'll make knives for you. Awesome. And then at the same time, they came up with a modified version, and in my opinion, that I'm about to show you, an upgraded version over the Axis lock. And so they did that with this Able lock that I'm about to just break down and share with you. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at it, and then we're gonna also just see how it compares to other Benchmades. I'll throw a few up for us to talk about and discuss. And just in general, how does it play into an everyday carry role? You know, if you're gonna EDC this thing, or if as a possible self-defense tool, because I know a lot of HK knives, when they were made by Benchmade, had a big connection with the law enforcement community. You could basically get almost like Benchmade quality, just at a slightly lower price, and many times Benchmade features. So I know that the law enforcement military really connected with HK knives back in the day. Does this still have applications for those type of roles, or is it just kind of a run-of-the-mill, who cares type of tool? We're gonna break all that down for you guys today as we look at the Exemplar of H&K knives made by Hogue. All right, so before we jump into anything else, let's get this Able lock talked about, discussed, to help you have a data point. And I know for some of you guys, I mean, I have a Benchmade Osborne right here. I've loved Benchmades. I've probably tested, owned, and reviewed probably 20 Benchmades here on the channel. So I have no, in the sense of the design issue, there's some issues with what's happened in the last year, you know, with the company that make me kind of think twice, like many of you maybe. That doesn't make me diss what the product is. So I'm not out to get Benchmade by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just giving you guys data points so that you can make that choice. And I know there will be Benchmade lovers out there that are just like, dude, this is just knockoff, whatever. Listen to the data and then make your decision. So the first out of the gate, we got honeycomb thumb studs, ambi on either side. Great deployment, buttery smooth, really like that a lot. You can do the whip in, whip out, it'll drop. You can just see how smooth that is. You drop that, boom, the thing swings in, closes. It's a really nice, fun deployment. So that I really like that aspect about it, and it'll be ambi for, you know, ambidextrous on either side. So the deployment and the lockup is rock solid. There's zero wobble right and left, zero up and down. Now that brings us to the Able lock itself, and this I got off of ammoland.com. I'll do my best to put a link in the description below so you guys can see it. As we look here, and I'm gonna run in my Osborne with G10 for the comparative Axis lock, because I actually do not have a full-size Griptilian at this point in time in the collection. I had a limited edition one that I sold off recently and have not picked another one up since then. So this article is an interview with Doug Ritter. Again, and I really appreciate Knife Rights because they help to fight for the ability to carry tools in our world here in the United States and enjoy them. Because of Knife Rights and partnering with some other people here in my state, we now have the ability to carry autos and OTFs, which is a really nice thing. So I appreciate the work that Doug does on the Knife Rights portion of it, and he makes his, that's like a from what I understand, like a nonprofit thing he does. Then he makes his income through his designs that, again, were produced for a long time by Benchmade and then were dumped. So he was looking for, like, hey, who is going to be able to produce something very similar, if not better, than what Benchmade did? And so Hogue offered, you know, that, hey, we got this new Able lock, you know, what do you think? And take a look. And so he actually is now partnered with Hogue. And now Hogue produces Doug Ritter's folders, which is super sweet. And I will have links. I believe KnifeWorks is the only website that carries that, his design, so you can check those out as well. But this is what the deal is with the Able lock. Able stands for Ambidextrous Bar Lock Enhanced. And what they have done is incorporated superior fit and finish on the geometry for smoother operation, and a tougher lock bar with Wolf Omega springs. So this is what this means, is that if you've ever owned a Benchmade Axis lock, and again, I've owned like 20 of them, they always seem to have a little bit of a little burr or a sticking feature on them. So when right now, and I've owned this Osborne for years, played with it thousands of times, probably opened and closed it. When I open it up, it's totally fine, but when I pull back, there's a little, and you feel like there's a little catch that you have to overcome, a little burr or something on the metal. It's not a hindrance to the blade in any way. It's just something that you notice. It's like this little catch, like click. You gotta like almost click it out of place. Not the case on this Able lock. Buttery smooth back and forth when you open and close it. So the geometry of the bar that they're doing here is smoother right in this area, in this action. So there's not any sort of catch where there's like a little catch or roughness that you feel when you move that Axis lock back and forth. And then the other thing is that they have enlarged, you can see that the bar is slightly larger than on the Axis lock. Now, am I gonna say that it's all like, you know, hundreds of pounds more stress and strength? No, I'm not gonna tell you anything like that. It's probably very similar in its stress tolerances, but it's just a thicker bar. I mean, there's just a fact there. It's smoother and it's thicker. Then the final piece of the puzzle. You can see wrapped around the little stud right here is a little piece of wire. That is the retention spring that when you pull it back, snaps it back into place. That's what that is. The Benchmade has the exact same thing right there. It's a little spring that pulls it back into place and keeps the retention, keeps the bar up against the back of the blade until you release it. Well, Hogue is using Wolf Omega springs. So I didn't know this, but the Wolf company is famed worldwide for their superior spring engineering and manufacturing in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. Wolf springs are respected for outstanding durability, thus providing enhanced reliability for the Able lock. Wolf also provides the torsion springs used in Hogue's automatic knives. Now, I have never had a Benchmade spring fail on me. I have seen certain people, maybe they just use their Benchmade tons and tons and tons. It does fail on them and then they have to replace it. For some of you, you'll be like, that's awesome that they're using upgraded springs. For some of you, you're gonna go, who cares? So that's just a data point though for you to consider. Then the final thing is that they do use another set of screws, and it goes all the way back to where you see that little center pin back in the middle of the handle. That is all steel all the way back in there to that point, giving you an overall stronger metal frame in there that this locking mechanism is riding in. So it gives more rigidity to the overall body of the knife and to the locking mechanism itself. Whereas with the Benchmade, usually you'll have it goes about the same way, but there's not that secondary screw back in there. So they go about the same distance with their locking mechanism, and it depends on the model as well. Now this one has it all the way through. I believe the Griptilian only goes maybe to here, and then it's all polymer after that. But this big bar back in there, as you can see, helps strengthen the overall body and strengthen the lock, whereas you don't have that with this Osborne. You just have this standoff stud back here that's not attached to the locking mechanism in any way. So what does this mean to you and me, the end user? What I notice is that the Able lock is smoother when disengaged and snappier when it pops back into place. That's really it. That's what I notice. There's just a smoother overall open and close on the mechanism than on, again, like 20 of my Benchmades. and it's noticeable. I can tell the difference, particularly if you already own a Benchmade and you pick up one of these H&Ks, you'll notice the difference, like, whoa, that is smoother and snappier. I kind of like that. With the strengths and all that other stuff, that's up for you to determine. You got to determine if that's valuable to you or not. And so what I feel like that means for us, and what HK and Hogue did here, Hogue particularly, is what they took all that the axis lock is, which is a great locking mechanism. I love it. And then they just fine-tuned it. They took it to the soup-up shop and tweaked it, fine-tuned it, put a better spring on it, made it a little bit larger, but did some better geometry on it, and made it reach a new potential that the axis lock on most Benchmades isn't currently hitting. So that's what I see Hogue has done with their Able lock. Now to the business end of the knife, which really helped it connect with me. It's very unique. You don't see a lot of that blade shape, with particularly that big clip on the front end and then a drop into the blade. So it really connected with me. I was like, that's a cool shape. You don't see that very often. It's unique. It definitely has a crossover feel of being very like tactical, but also at the same time very user-friendly for everyday carry tasks, which is awesome. So I really connected with that. This definitely got a hot and sassy feel to it for sure. Slim and deadly, but still giving you, it has the feeling of it being slim just because of this cut in, but it's still got, you know, a pretty good wide blade profile for you. Now, from handle to tip is going to be 3.25 inches. Actual cutting edge is 3.125. You do have this slight ricasso. You could kind of choke up on it. It's not really designed for that, but you know, you could do it. And particularly if you have kind of smaller hands. I have not used it that way. I don't use it that way with the way the handle and the blade are designed. What we have is a really good relief edge. I was really happy with that. You know, I didn't have to reprofile it or anything like it. They brought it up really well into this flat or saber grind that goes about 2/3 up the blade. And I was actually impressed. I was kind of not expecting a lot. It's an 1/8 of an inch thick, you know, 0.12 back here by the thumb studs, and keeping that strength all the way down to basically where the clip engages, and then it kind of tapers down to that precise tip, which is good. It's strong, but you definitely get precision out of it, which is really good. So for piercing, either packaging or other things, it's going to be able to do that really well, but giving you strength throughout the blade. And that higher saber grind really, I was surprised in how well it sliced through things. It's cardboard, plastics, cordage, those type of things. I was kind of expecting it to be maybe not quite as good a slicer. Now, I mean, you know, like a 0.1 full flat grind Spyderco Delica obviously is going to be better, but for the competition, for other similar blades, similar profiles, it's very good and holds its own, if not even surpasses some of their slicing capability. A lot of that is also just the continued sweep of the blade. Now this is a stonewash finish. You can get blacked out blades, but they have the serrated teeth on it. So it's a combo blade. I don't really like that. That's a drawback. Is I would have liked to see these either as options of getting plain edge with satin, or sorry, stonewash and black coating, or not. Basically, if you want black coating, they have two combo options, and then they have two handle color combinations, like tan and black, I think. So it's like black and black, or black on tan handles, but those are both combo blades. Or if you want plain edge, you got to go with the stonewash black handle. I hope that they give more options down the line. It's a little bit of drawback, just not as much variety in that level of it. Of course, I connect with plain edge. That's what I always go with. And this is made out of 154 cm. Blade HQ says CPM 154. It's not. I looked on the Hogue website under their HK line, and it says 154 cm. Rockwell 57 to 59, cryogenically heat treated. So that's good. It is 154 cm, which is, I would say, middle of the road for most tools out there, and we'll talk about that in price points and things in just a little bit. It's very good. It's very rust resistant. It will hold a good edge. It's pretty easy to put an edge back on out in the field. Not as easy as other stuff out there, but it's decent, and it holds a decent edge. I would have liked to see an upgraded steel, either S30V or S35VN. Something in that realm would have been nicer to see. Just would have helped with a little bit longer edge retention, but again, you are getting the easiness of reprofiling. And Hogue has been using 154 cm for a long time, so they know how to do it well. So they are doing it, that type of steel, well. But it is kind of middle of the road for quality of steel. But the blade shape, the profile, all that stuff super connects with me, and it's got a decent steel for the price point that we'll discuss in a bit. So good pocket clip in the sense that it is a loop over, but still giving you enough to pinch and grab, and the large 550 paracord as well, and that it's ambidextrous 4-way. Tip up, tip down, right or left. So depending on, you have 4 different ways that you can operate this thing and carry it. The only drawback that I see with it is that it's satin, you know, matching the blade, and it's pretty large. So, I mean, it'll stay in your pocket, but if you're carrying it, you know, you're going to know that you're carrying a knife. I mean, people are going to see it. I would have liked to see it blacked out, would be a preference. I believe some of the other models do have blacked out versions that have the serrated blade, as we discussed earlier. I would have liked to see them all just come with a blacked out pocket clip. But other than that, loop over, medium ride, 4-way directional, all awesome. So onto the handle, and what makes this really nice is that it's G10. Now, you know, Hogue is known for doing crazy stuff with G10 for pistol grips, as well as for a lot of their knives. And so it's nice to see that versus just like a glass reinforced nylon. Gives it a denser feeling than the competition. And the cool little patterns that they give you, good transitions all the way around. You're looking at a total length from front to back of 4.625 inches, handle height of 1.25 inches, and then a thickness of 0.59, so a little over ½ an inch thick. And what that means is it's going to fill out my hand, and I wear large size gloves really well. I really like the ergonomic feel of it. It doesn't feel squared off or clunky, even though it is a pretty squared off handle. The transitions are done really well, and then just with the cut-ins, and they've scalloped in those lower portions all along here really well. So I feel very locked into place. You can see there I have a little real estate left over. It would definitely fill out my hand with gloves very nicely. The pocket clip doesn't cause any hot spots or sharp pain. I got a nice cut in there with a little bit of jimping along not only where the able lock is, but into the blade with that slight thumb ramp, but it's a mild jimping, so it gives me the traction without biting and causing pain. This is the type of jimping that I like. I don't like super over aggressive jimping. I don't think that there is a need for that. And then you get a little bit on the back so that even in a reverse grip, you have a lot of traction, which is important. Feeling the way I feel about this of kind of like a, with the thought of military and law enforcement, but also EDC capable. So it really fills out the hand. That's a really good thing. The weight also is going to be 4.3 ounces, which is great because there aren't any liners in there. It's just the G10, and the locking mechanism that goes down to kind of like the center of the handle has some steel in there, but that's about it. So what you're going to get also when you close it, you don't get quite the clackiness of other kind of hollow sound that you get with other polymer glass reinforced nylon handles like a Benchmade Griptilian or something like that, that sound really clacky and hollow and kind of cheap feeling. This has a little bit of a denser feel to it. The only drawback that I have with the ergonomics is that it's not actually, sorry, not in the ergonomics, in the handle design, is that it's just a big kind of beefy handle. So it feels great in the hand and it gives you really good traction, kind of fills out the hand, but it is going to take up a little more real estate in your pocket than a slimmed down, thinner profile blade. Even like this Hogue, which is a 4-inch, this is the EX line, you know, this is a bigger blade. And it's going to be longer in your pocket, but it is slimmer in your pocket by a little bit. So it's just the girth of the HK here is a little bit on the thicker side and will take up a little more real estate in the pocket. Things just to consider. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and hit price at this point and competitive options, because I always want to give you guys food for thought, help you think through, is this the best way to spend your hard-earned money? Because like you, I went out and bought this. I spent $130 on this over on Amazon, and that's about the going rate for it. Blade HQ has it for about that same price. To my knowledge, GP Knives does not have it at this point in time. They may in some future date, so I'll have links for all three below, and also the links for guys, all the other places, Knock Around Sunglass Company, backcountry.com, 511, and Mystery Ranch, and even the PayPal if you want to help out in that way. That's always, you can use all those hyperlinks to purchase your gear, look at the different stuff. We have lots of lists on those things. So with that, $130, when you look at other blades, which again just really makes me think of the Benchmade Griptilian, now they're using S30V steel, and I think it's right around, like the full size is right around that same price point for the S30V. The difference being, you know, you might get a slightly different pocket clip at this point. You're getting a different blade shape. You are getting G10 over polymer. So there are trade-offs to each one. Again, that's why I would have liked to see S30V, or S30V steel on here, or S35VN for this price point. So I'm not saying it's overpriced. It's the middle of the road, or possibly, you know, you might be able to get a better blade steel, but slightly less quality on maybe the handle and the other, you know, stuff that we've obviously talked about. So that's just something to consider there. It's decent. It's not like a great price in what they're asking for on this HK line. And just to give you an option here, here's their Hogue EX series, again with 154 cm steel. This is with their plunge lock. This is a manual version. This has got their G10, I believe, as well on there. And this does not have ambidextrous pocket clip though. Really sweet blade. This guy, you can get the 3.5-inch version, so similar size range, for around 130 as well. So it's very competitive to other Hogues, you know, US made company. And I'll just run this in just to show you. S30V G10, but Benchmade wants like 170 or maybe 180, I can't remember, for this model of the Osborne. You know, smaller, but I mean, that's a huge jump, $40 to $50 for this guy for just the slightly better steel. So, you know, in comparison to what else is on the market, I would say that the HK blade here, this Exemplar, is kind of middle of the road. It's not a bad price, but it's not like a mind-blowing price for what you're getting and competitive options. Well, in conclusion, I personally believe that Hogue has totally nailed it. Love their Able lock. I love the blade shape and the handle ergonomics. Again, the only drawback that I'm seeing is really the beefy kind of clunkiness of the handle. It's not unergonomic, it's just a beefier profile that's gonna take up more space in your pocket. That's really the only thing that you just have to weigh and decide compared to other tools out there, regardless if it's a Benchmade Griptilian or other tools in general, some of the other Hogues that are out there, the EX lines, things like that. So I hope this video has given you all the data that you need, talk through the Able lock in general. Again, love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you feel throughout the video, and particularly about the Able lock and just the idea. And I can't wait, again, to see what other tools that they decide to throw this lock onto and what the future holds for this partnership with HK and with Hogue. So guys, thank you so much. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, all the social media. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. Check us out as well by subscribing and hitting that other video. You can see what else, other content we've recently posted up, and we're putting up videos every single week. And finally, guys, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.